What is the smallest lizard?
Geckos, sometimes spelled geckos, are the smallest types of lizards. They are only about 1 inch, 3 centimeters, long. Geckos got their name from the frequent chirping and clicking noises they make. Most reptiles don't make any noise at all. They like warm climates, and, unlike many other reptiles, they frequently live peacefully among humans, probably because they are harmless. They are less threatening because of their small size, and their insect diet is helpful to humans. The tiny, hair-like coverings on their flattened feet make geckos extraordinary climbers. They are able to grip even very smooth surfaces. And they can climb straight up walls and even walk across ceilings.
Where does dirt come from?
Dirt, or more accurately, soil, is the surface layer of earth in which plants can grow. It can be a few inches deep or extend down for several feet. It is made up of tiny pieces of rock of various sizes and shapes. Along with air, water, and humus, which is the decomposed remains of plants. The more humus soil contains, the better it can hold the nutrients and water that plants need to grow. The different types of rocks that make up soil are usually fine particles of parent rocks that lie farther below Earth's surface. These have been made fine by erosion worn by wind and water, or by geological occurrences like volcanic eruptions and the movement of glaciers. There are many kinds of rocks composed of different minerals and formed in different ways that make up Earth's crust.
What is organic farming?
While most large farms today use chemicals to control weeds and insects and to produce increased amounts of vegetables, milk, or eggs, some farmers have chosen to run their farms without chemicals. Organic farmers believe that the chemicals many farmers use can be damaging to the environment and to the people that eat the food grown on such farms. They feel that natural fertilizers and pest control methods are just as effective and far healthier. A British farmer and scientist named Albert Howard began the practice of organic farming as an alternative to modern chemical-based methods in the 1930s. His ideas have spread all over the world, taking hold in the United States in the late 1940s. A basic principle of organic farming is to focus on keeping the soil rich with nutrients by feeding it natural fertilizers like cow manure. Such fertile soil can help create stronger plants that are better able to resist disease and insects. Organic farmers also prevent insect damage by putting up insect traps or by bringing in beneficial insects that feed on the harmful ones that are causing the problem. In extreme cases, they need to use pesticides, but to continue being certified as Organic farmers in the United States, such farmers need to use botanical pesticides. Those that are made from plants, rather than synthetic, or man-made, chemicals. Organic farmers also try to do more tasks using human power rather than gas-powered vehicles, thereby using less fuel and cutting down on pollution. Organic farms that raise livestock like dairy cows or chickens feed the animals with natural food, avoiding chemicals and growth hormones that make cows produce more milk and chickens produce more eggs. Some organic farmers also allow their animals to roam in a large area. Such animals are described as free-range. Rather than keeping them in small, climate-controlled pens for their entire lives. While organic farming began in a small way in experimental gardens and small family-run farms, it has grown into a huge industry. As more and more people looked for organically grown fruits and vegetables in their grocery stores, more and more companies began producing certified organic foods. At the beginning of the 21st century, organic farming was a $7.70 billion per year industry in the United States, a small but significant percentage of the entire food selling industry.
Where does our clean water come from?
Rain is the source of the water we use. It collects in rivers and lakes and in human-made gathering places called reservoirs. Or it sinks into the ground, where it is pumped back to the surface by wells. Water usually has to be treated before it is safe for drinking and general use. It has to be free of harmful bacteria and chemicals, as well as substances that make it look or taste bad. Water is pumped from lakes, rivers, or reservoirs through huge pipes to water treatment plants. There it is filtered to remove large pieces of debris, like twigs and dead fish. Two special chemicals, aluminum sulfate and lime, are then added. These make the small particles of dirt left in the water cling together in tiny lumps called flocks. Pumped into a sedimentation tank, the water is allowed to settle, with its flocks gradually sinking to the bottom for removal, ready for more filtration. The water is run through layers of stone and sand that remove fine particles of dirt. Bacteria are then added to eat any microscopic creatures that may still be present. A chemical called chlorine is added to kill the bacteria once their job is done. Other chemicals may be added to make the water softer so that it works better with soap for washing or healthier. Fluoride, for example, is often added to prevent tooth decay. Once treatment is complete, water is sent through huge tubes to storage places, tanks, or covered reservoirs where it is ready for use. It is pumped into communities through big pipes located just underground called water mains. These mains supply homes and businesses with water through smaller pipes that attach to faucets and other outlets. In order to meet the needs of communities, treatment plants can produce many millions of gallons of fresh water every day. Next time you fill a glass with water, Think about the incredible journey it took to arrive there.
How do insects make other sounds?
Most of the time, insects make noise for mating purposes. Male insects produce sound to attract females, sometimes over long distances. A male insect can make such sounds by rubbing parts of his body together. The grasshopper, for instance, rubs the rough edge of his hind leg against the edge of a forewing. Similarly, the cricket scrapes his forewings together. Other insects have membranes that vibrate, which also produces sound.
Why do little kids ride tricycles instead of bikes?
The triangular shape of a tricycle, with its 3 wheels spread apart, is much more stable than a regular bicycle, which balances on 2 aligned wheels. The tri 3 and by 2 before cycle refers to the number of wheels each vehicle has. Tricycles suit young children well, with larger heads and undeveloped muscles. Little ones lack the coordination and balance needed to ride regular bikes. But as soon as they can learn to pedal, children can ride a tricycle, turning leg power into wheel power. A tricycle is built for stability and not for speed. Its pedals are attached to a sprocket. In the center of its large front wheel, which moves around once for each completed pedal turn. So the larger the front wheel of a tricycle, the faster it will go, but it cannot be so large that young legs cannot reach the pedals. This design makes a tricycle unlike a regular bike, which has chain-driven sprockets that move its wheels a lot faster than its rider's feet. Tricycles are also easier for little ones to steer and turn because they are pulled forward by the movement of their front wheels. Regular bikes are powered by their rear wheels.
Why are leopards spotted?
Like the fur of many animals, the leopard's coat is a form of camouflage. Camouflage helps animals blend in with their environments, making them less visible to predators, the animals that hunt them, and prey, the creatures they hunt. Mostly found in the forests of Africa and Asia, leopards, which hunt in trees and on the ground, blend in with the dappled sunlight shining through leafy tree branches and other plant life. Melanin is the organic chemical responsible for the pigmentation or color of animal and human skin. The more pigmentation, the darker the color. Black panthers are really leopards that have melanism, a condition of excess pigmentation. If you look closely at a black panther, careful, you may be able to see the same spots that a normal leopard has against a very dark background. Because leopards are mostly nocturnal, resting during the day and active at night, this dark coloration causes little problem for black panthers.
How does a vacuum cleaner pick up dirt?
A vacuum cleaner is run by an electric motor that turns a fan at an extraordinarily high speed, about 25,000 revolutions, or full turns, per minute. This spinning creates an area in front of the fan that has lower air pressure than normal a partial vacuum, from which the appliance gets its name. Surrounding air rushes into the partially empty space caused by the whirring fan, carrying small particles with it as the vacuum cleaner runs over dirty surfaces like carpet and furniture. The air usually passes through a suction head or attachment and then a filter, where dirt and dust are trapped in a collection area that can be emptied. The rush of air continues through the fan, which blows it out of the vacuum cleaner.
How does mail get from one place to another?
Once you mail a letter, a complex process that requires the efforts of many people and machines, sometimes located in different parts of the world, begins. Perhaps you put your letter into one of the mailboxes found at various locations in your community. These conveniently located boxes mean you don't have to make a trip to the post office each time you want to mail a letter. Mailboxes are visited by mail carriers a few times each day to pick up their contents. The mail collected by carriers is taken to a local postal sorting office, where it joins all the other letters that have been mailed in the area that day. High-speed machines take over then, preparing your letter to reach its destination. Mail is dumped onto a moving conveyor belt that brings it to a machine that separates it by size. Another machine checks to make sure that all the mail is properly stamped, and then it cancels, or prints over, the stamps so that they can't be used again. A postmark is also printed on each envelope, which tells the time, date, and place from which the letters have been mailed. A machine reads the zip codes written in the addresses of letters, which tell exactly to which part of the country or the world they are headed. Postal services around the globe work together to distribute mail, and most have similar code systems. Postal workers process by hand the letters that have missing or unreadable zip codes. The zip code machine prints a barcode, a machine-readable series of lines, more reliable than written numerals on each letter, and a second sorting machine reads and separates them by destination. Mail is grouped by city and country. Local mail is prepared for delivery the next day. Other mail travels by truck, express train, or plane, depending on where it is going. Once mail travels close to its destination, it is unloaded at another postal sorting office. A barcode reading machine scans the letters again, separating them further for delivery to districts, neighborhoods, and streets. The letters are sent to local post offices, where carriers are given the mail for their delivery areas. Routes may include homes, shops, and office buildings. Carriers who work in farm country where people live very far A part may have to travel many miles to deliver the mail each day.
Why is the lion known as the king of beasts?
The lion is one of the largest members of the cat family. Found mostly in the open country of Central Africa. A male lion can reach up to 9 feet, 2.7 meters, long, including his tail, and weigh almost 400 pounds, 182 kilograms, the female is somewhat smaller. Powerfully built, lions can take down large, swift-running animals like zebra and antelope, on which they feed. Unique to the cat family, the male lion possesses a black or brown mane of long hair that grows on its neck, head, and shoulders. The mane can become quite enormous. The size and power of the male lion, his hunting habits, and his impressive mane have all likely contributed to his label as king of beasts. Lions also have commanding, thunderous roars, which can sometimes be heard more than a mile away. That, undoubtedly, have also contributed to their kingly reputation.
What happens when a person loses his or her voice?
When your vocal cords and the tissue that surrounds them are irritated or swollen, you usually have a condition called laryngitis. Laryngitis makes your voice sound funny and hoarse and, in some cases, can even keep you from speaking altogether. Then it is said that you have lost your voice. Usually the swelling in your larynx or voice box is caused by a cold or infection there. But sometimes smoking, or yelling, singing, and talking a lot can cause the problem. After a few days of resting the vocal cords and not speaking, or after the illness that has caused the swelling goes away, your voice will return to normal.
If thunder and lightning happen at the same time, why don't we see and hear them at the same time?
Light from a flash of lightning travels almost immediately to your eyes. That is because light waves move very fast, at a speed of about 186,281 miles. 300,000 kilometers per second, a rate known as the speed of light. Sound waves, on the other hand, travel more slowly, about 1/5 of a mile, or 1,100 feet. 335 meters per second, though this varies with the temperature and medium through which sound is moving. So the sound of thunder reaches your ears a few seconds after you see lightning. Sometimes lightning is so far away that you cannot hear the thunder that goes with it. And sometimes thunder can be heard without seeing lightning, which may be hard to spot if it is deep within a cloud and the day is bright. A fairly accurate mathematical formula can indicate how far away a lightning strike has occurred. If you count the number of seconds between the flash of lightning and the sound of thunder and divide the number by 5, you will know how many miles away the lightning occurred. When thunder seems to follow lightning almost immediately, you know that lightning has struck very close by, and as the amount of time between seeing lightning and hearing thunder increases, you know the storm is moving farther away.
Why was the Statue of Liberty built?
The Statue of Liberty, officially named Liberty Enlightening the World and sometimes referred to as Lady Liberty, was built in the late 1800s as a symbol of the friendship between France and the United States. France had supported American efforts to gain independence from England in the 1770s. And the United States had returned the favor during France's Revolution of the 1780s and 1790s. A joint effort between the two nations, the statue was designed and built in France. While the 154-foot, 47-meter, concrete pedestal was the responsibility of the Americans. Intended as a gift to celebrate the 100-year anniversary, or centennial, of American independence, which happened in 1776, the statue was designed by sculptor Frederick Augusta Bartholdi. He had help from many engineers and designers, including Alexander Gustave Eiffel, the man who designed the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France. Lack of funds in both countries slowed down the construction of the statue, and it wasn't actually completed until 1884, 8 years after the centennial. It took nearly a year for the statue, which was broken down and divided among more than 200 crates, to travel across the Atlantic Ocean to the United States. And it was another whole year before the pedestal was completed. Finally, on October 28, 1886, the Statue of Liberty was officially dedicated in front of a crowd of thousands. Made of copper and steel, the statue, which depicts a woman who represents the concept of liberty, stands just over 151 feet, 46 meters, tall, plus the height of the pedestal. To give an idea of just how big the statue is, bear in mind these statistics: her index finger is 8 feet, 2.4 meters, long, her nose is 4.5 feet, 1.4 meters, long, and the width of her mouth is 3 feet, 0.9 meters. Lady Liberty holds a torch in one hand, symbolizing enlightenment or freedom from ignorance. The other hand holds a plaque that bears the date of American independence, July 4, 1776.
Why do I have to wear sunscreen?
If you are going to be out in the sun for a long time, you need to wear a sunscreen or sunblock. These lotions contain chemicals that absorb certain harmful rays of the sun. Ultraviolet rays, keeping them from penetrating your skin. This protection is important because these rays can hurt you. causing painful sunburns that damage the tissues beneath the surface of your skin. Damaging your skin's deep elastic layer makes it look old and wrinkled a lot earlier than it should. But the most important thing to avoid when you're out in the sun is cell damage that causes skin cancer. Doctors have found that being in strong sunlight a lot, especially if you are fair, and having many sunburns, particularly when you are young, can cause real problems many years later. Skin cancers can develop and, when not treated quickly, spread to other parts of the body and be extremely dangerous. Because sunscreens can't protect you from all of the sun's harmful rays, it is also wise to use clothing, hats, and sunglasses to cover up when sunlight is strong. In addition, it is a good idea to limit outdoor activities between the hours of 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. when the rays of the sun are most intense.
What is a cousin?
A first cousin is the child of your uncle or aunt. The term cousin can also refer to other family members to whom you are not as closely related.
What is smog?
Smog, which originally was named by combining the words smoke and fog, is a type of air pollution. Smog was so named because it can form when moisture in the air combines with smoke particles. The smoke particles come from factories burning coal. This kind of smog has been a problem in London and other cities in Great Britain. Another kind of smog, called photochemical smog, is generally what people mean when they refer to this kind of pollution. Photochemical smog occurs when sunlight combines with the fumes from cars and factories in big cities. This combination produces a chemical reaction, resulting in gases called oxidants. When the weather conditions are right, very little wind, or a layer of warm air settling on top of a layer of cool air, smog can accumulate and hover in the air. The Los Angeles, California, area is especially famous for its high levels of smog. The conditions are ripe for a smog problem in Los Angeles. There are a lot of cars producing a great deal of exhaust. The city is located in a valley, where smog tends to accumulate. And it is surrounded by mountains, which means little wind gets in to break up the smog. The oxidants produced in photochemical smog pollute the air, damage plant life, and, in extreme cases, causes people to get sick. It has even been responsible for deaths. Over a 4-day period in 1952, the smog in London became so heavy and thick that people could barely see what was in front of them. By the end of that period, 4,000 people had died from lung ailments produced by the toxic chemicals. In the United States, in the town of Donora, Pennsylvania, 20 people died and thousands more became sick when smog levels reached a dangerous high. Laws attempting to reduce levels of air pollution have made some improvements, but the huge number of cars, factories, and power plants in industrialized nations like the United States continue to produce high levels of air pollution.
Do people die when struck by lightning?
Most people struck by lightning do not die. If lightning, which is about the width of a pencil, does not pass through a person's heart, brain, or spinal cord, interrupting or damaging the electrical impulse cells that run them, then that person usually survives. While the electrical discharge of a lightning bolt is powerful and hot, up to 54,000 degrees Fahrenheit, or 30,000 degrees Celsius, it is fortunately incredibly quick. Survivors often have burn marks on their skin and clothes, especially where the lightning has entered and left their bodies. While it's possible to survive a lightning strike, it is best to follow safety precautions to avoid testing that possibility. When a thunderstorm approaches, go inside a building or closed car or truck. The vehicle's metal body will offer a safe path for lightning's electrical current to flow to the ground. The exterior of a building will do the same. One thing to remember when you are in a building, however, is to stay off a cord phone and avoid using plumbing fixtures or electrical appliances until the storm passes. Lightning can move through the ground for quite a distance from the place where it strikes, and it may on rare occasions travel along water, electrical, or phone lines into your home. If a thunderstorm approaches so quickly that you can't find shelter, you can still take steps to protect yourself outdoors. Remember that lightning always takes the shortest route to Earth, so avoid being near tall things. You may feel tempted to stand under a tall tree for protection from the rain. But remember that a tree may be struck by lightning. Don't stand on a hilltop, instead, try to find the lowest ground you can, like a ditch or a valley, and crouch there, trying to make yourself as small as possible. Avoid bodies of water, swimming pools, lakes, or even puddles. And metal objects. Both water and metal conduct electricity well, and if lightning struck them, the electrical current would travel through to everything touching the water or metal.
What were some of the biggest meat-eating dinosaurs?
For many years Tyrannosaurus rex, whose name means king of the tyrant lizards, reigned as the biggest and meanest of the carnivorous dinosaurs. At 40 feet, 12 meters, and with a head nearly 5 feet, 1.5 meters, long and teeth 6 inches, 15 centimeters, long, T. Rex was definitely not a dinosaur you'd want to meet face to face. But some dinosaur bones discovered in the early 1990s show that T. Rex was not the biggest carnivorous dinosaur ever to have terrorized the planet. Giganotosaurus, pronounced Giganotosaurus, was slightly longer at nearly 42 feet, 12.6 meters, long. It lived about 30 million years before T-Rex. Scientists believe there are other ferocious meat-eaters that were even larger than the Giganotosaurus.
Which plant grows the largest fruit?
A plant known as the jackfruit, which grows in the countries of India and Sri Lanka, is thought to produce the largest fruits in the world. One fruit can weigh up to 50 pounds, 22 kilograms. They are oval, yellow, and prickly on the outside and have sweet or sour brown pulpy flesh on the inside. The flesh can be cooked or eaten raw.
What is an eclipse of the sun?
Once in a while the moon passes directly in front of the sun as it makes its way around Earth. It temporarily blocks out the sun, casting a shadow on a portion of Earth that is experiencing day. When this total eclipse of the sun, a solar eclipse, occurs, the part of Earth affected becomes dark and cold until the moon passes by. Surrounding areas experience a partial eclipse, where just part of the sun is temporarily covered by the moon.
What are stalactites and stalagmites?
Caves form in huge, thick deposits of rocks like limestone, which dissolves over time when rainwater passes over or seeps through it. As water drips through the roof of a limestone cave, the drips leave bits of mineral behind, causing a stone column called a stalactite to form, which grows down in a cone shape like an icicle. Where the drips hit the cave floor, leaving behind more minerals. A stone column called a stalagmite forms, growing up. One way to remember which word describes which kind of growth is to think of stalactites as holding tight to the ceiling. The G in stalagmites can stand for the word ground. Stalactites and stalagmites can become very large, and sometimes they meet in the middle, forming a single column or pillar of stone. The largest stalactite in the world is located in a cavern in County Clare, Ireland. It measures more than 23 feet, 7 meters, long. The largest stalagmite known to exist is located near Lozère in southern France. It measures more than 95 feet, 29 meters, in length and is still growing.
Can any animals talk?
Most animals have the ability to talk to other animals of the same species. They make one kind of noise to attract a mate, another to sound the alarm that a predator approaches, and so on. Animals can also communicate with each other through gestures, touch, and even by releasing certain odors. The more evolved the animal, the more complex their communication becomes. Animals that live in complicated social structures, with a leader and followers, communicate the details about that social order to each other. As for whether animals can talk to humans, this simple question has sparked heated debate among scientists for many years. Experiments teaching chimpanzees sign language so they could communicate with their human observers resulted initially in exciting discoveries. It appeared that the chimps had learned to put together simple sentences from the signs they had learned. A closer look, however, revealed that the animals had simply learned to move their hands in ways that pleased the humans. The scientists, eager to believe communication with the chimps was possible, misinterpreted the animals' gestures. A few years later, in the mid-1990s, scientists in Atlanta, Georgia, worked with bonobo, or pygmy, chimps to teach them to associate words with dozens of different symbols on a keyboard. The scientists believe that these chimps learn to communicate following instructions and offering information at the level of a human toddler. While many experts agree that such basic communication between the smartest primates and human beings is possible, some linguists, or human language specialists, don't think that animals can learn our languages. They feel that studies like the ones done with the bonobo chimps simply show that the animals are very good at being trained. They can figure out which buttons to push to get food and other rewards from the scientists. Many pet owners and scientists have had great success teaching parrots, particularly the African gray parrot, to talk. Parrots have outstanding mimicking abilities. They can imitate a human voice with surprising accuracy, and they can learn a great number of words. What is unclear, however, is whether parrots can really understand the words they say, or if they are merely imitating what they hear.
What is the smallest bone in my body?
The smallest bone in your body is the stirrup, located in the middle ear. It is about the size of a grain of rice. It is named that because it looks just like a tiny stirrup. The part on a horse's saddle on which you rest your foot. When sound waves enter your ear canal, they vibrate your eardrum. The three tiny bones behind it also vibrate, increasing the strength of the sound as it passes through the middle ear. The stirrup, along with the hammer and the anvil bones also named for their shapes, transfer their vibrations to the inner ear, where they become nerve impulses and travel to your brain.
What causes an itch?
Under the surface of your skin are millions of tiny sensors that detect touch, pressure, pain, heat, and cold. When you have an itch, the sensors send a message to your Brain that something is on your skin that usually isn't there. It may be an insect, or a piece of fuzz, or a strand of fallen hair. Dry skin is often itchy because you have flakes of dead skin cells on a surface that is usually kept smooth and supple by the oil from skin glands. Sometimes when you eat or touch something that you are allergic to, your immune system, whose mission it is to protect you, releases irritating chemicals that may cause itching on your skin.
Why are people right-handed or left-handed?
The way your brain works determines whether you are right or left-handed. The left half of your brain controls the right side of your body, and the right side of your brain controls the left side of your body. Because one side of the brain is always stronger or more dominant, there is one side of the body that is more developed and skilled, too. For most people, about 90%, more females than males. It is the left side of the brain that is dominant, making them right-handed, and right-footed, too. Scientists don't know why the brains of left-handed people develop in a reverse way. But it makes absolutely no difference. In fact, because left-handed people have to get along in a right-handed world, using tools, machines, and instruments designed for right-handers, they are often pretty skilled with their non-dominant hand, too. Scientists think that may be why left-handed baseball players are better hitters than those who are right-handed. There are also a few people who are ambidextrous, which means that they can do a task equally well with either hand. And some people are mixed-handed, performing some tasks better with the left hand and some with the right.
Why are please and thank you magic words?
Most human beings live with other people all their lives. You grow up in a family, learn along with classmates in your school, and participate with your friends and neighbors in activities in your community. You are a citizen of a country, which is one of many that make up the world. People have always lived together and over the years have developed something called manners, or etiquette, that help make all this togetherness of so many individuals a little easier. While these rules of conduct have changed from century to century and vary from place to place, they are all based on the idea that a person should treat others like he or she would like to be treated. People who have good manners are said to be polite. Polite people are appreciated because they have respect for others. Please and thank you are not magic words like abracadabra, which a magician says as he pulls a rabbit out of a hat. But they are special words because they make dealing with other people go more smoothly. People depend on one another for all sorts of things. We have to ask for help or permission all the time. Saying please shows that your request also comes with respect for the person you are asking. People are usually more willing to fulfill the requests of those who treat them with respect. Similarly, after someone gives you something or assists you, it is polite to say thank you to show your appreciation. Someone whose actions are appreciated will be more likely to help out or be generous again. So you can see how being polite can help people get things done. The words please and thank you make the world a more thoughtful and generous place.
Does it really matter, for example, if the person who cut in front of you in line gets into the movie theater before you do?
Remember, as much as you wish you could, you can't control how other people act, especially not with yelling and hitting. But what you can control in a given situation are your own feelings and behavior.
Why do evergreens have needles instead of leaves?
The needles of conifers, or evergreens, are really specially shaped leaves. They have the same features that normal leaves have, tiny holes or stomata through which carbon dioxide and oxygen pass. The green substance chlorophyll that allows food making through photosynthesis. And special transportation cells that move food, water, and minerals to wherever they are needed. Conifer leaves are small, narrow, and have a thick surface, though, to limit transpiration, or water loss. Evergreens usually live in dry places where it is very cold for much of the year. Their special leaves allow them to live in the far north or high in the mountains, where the ground is often frozen. These trees' typical conical shape with narrow, pointed tops and drooping branches also helps prevent damage during heavy snows. Conifers live in places with hot, dry summers, too. Like around the Mediterranean Sea in Europe and in the Middle East.
Will people be cloned someday?
The breakthroughs in cloning technology made by the Roslin scientists and several other scientists since then who have successfully cloned mice, monkeys, and cows have raised new hopes, and fears, that the technology to clone a human being is within reach. Some scientists believe that the first successful cloning of a human being will happen before the end of this century's first decade. The method to clone a human will most likely be the same as that used to clone Dolly the sheep. The cloning of mammals and the possibility of cloning a person has sparked many arguments about whether it's right or wrong to conduct such experiments. While some argue that cloning can yield tremendous benefits, others worry that the technology is ripe for abuse. Many politicians and scientists have called for a worldwide ban on human cloning until further research can be conducted. Some countries have agreed and instituted such a ban.
Why are there deserts?
A desert is a land area that receives less than 10 inches of precipitation, rain or snow, a year. As strange as it seems, that definition makes parts of Earth's polar regions, the Arctic and Antarctica, desert-like in their climates. The fierce cold there causes dry air, which allows for little precipitation. Most of Earth's deserts, however, are dry, rocky, and sandy. And because the greatest of them border the tropics. North Africa's Sahara is the biggest, many of them are hot. Wind patterns are most responsible for the creation of deserts. Most of the world's deserts are located in areas that get a lot of warm, dry wind. That dry air blows through desert regions, robbing them of moisture and reducing the likelihood of cloud formation and rainfall. High temperatures, which cause evaporation, and surrounding mountains which can stop moist air from approaching, can also help create a desert climate.
Do spiders really eat the bugs they catch in their webs?
Yes, most spiders live on insects and other related arthropods. Very large spiders can capture small birds and snakes in their silk traps. Spiders know they've made a catch because they can feel the vibrations caused by struggling bugs caught in their strong, sticky webs. Sometimes spiders tightly wrap their prey in silk to subdue them. They usually kill their prey by injecting them with a paralyzing poison or venom that they produce.
How was the universe created?
There are many ideas about how the universe was formed. The most popular one is called the Big Bang Theory. It is thought that at the beginning of time, all the matter and energy in the universe was concentrated in a very small space or volume that exploded. Eventually, the matter left over from the explosion formed galaxies. Within those galaxies came to be stars, one of which is our Sun, and planets, including those in our solar system. The universe as we know it continues to expand, moving away from the center of the Big Bang.
Why do horses sleep standing up?
Almost all horses sleep standing up because of the unique way they are built. The bones and ligaments, elastic bands that connect bones at joints, in a horse's legs lock together in a unique way, allowing its muscles to become completely relaxed while it remains standing. So the weight of a horse's body is safely suspended on its specially locked legs while it sleeps. Lying down while sleeping probably wouldn't be comfortable for a horse anyway. Horses are heavy animals with big muscles, but their bones are surprisingly delicate. Lying in one position for a long time could very likely injure a horse. Scientists think that horses developed their habit of sleeping upright as a defense mechanism. A way of protecting themselves against predators. Their speed is their main defense in the wild. And a standing position keeps a horse in a constant state of readiness to race away if danger should approach. Rising from a laying position takes the leggy beasts more time than most animals.
Is there anything wrong with thumb sucking?
During a child's early years, thumb sucking is not a problem. In order to survive, all babies are born with sucking reflexes that help them. Feed right away on milk from the mother's breast or formula from a bottle. From the earliest moments, an infant associates sucking with milk filling his or her empty stomach and a feeling of comfort. When not feeding, a baby may frequently suck his or her thumb, fingers, or a pacifier to get that sense of comfort again. The habit often continues in young children when they are bored or frustrated or trying to get to sleep. Many children have a hard time breaking this habit. About 10% of school-age children in the United States, 2.4 million, suck their thumbs. While thumb sucking doesn't cause problems in very young children who still have their baby teeth, it can have an effect on the bite of older kids who have their permanent teeth. Thumb sucking can push upper teeth forward and lower teeth back so that the top teeth and bottom teeth don't line up the way they should. At this point, children should be strongly encouraged to give up their habit. An older child may want to stop thumb sucking and be more grown up, especially if he or she feels some pressure from friends at school. But many kids go back to sucking their thumbs when under stress, or when they're sleeping. Keeping thumb-sucking children happy and busy, rewarding their efforts to stop. And even using reminders like a piece of tape wrapped around the thumb may help them quit the habit.
What are some of the different energy sources?
The main energy sources used around the world today are oil, coal, and natural gas. These sources of energy are called fossil fuels, so named because they come from the fossilized remains of plants and animals that lived hundreds of millions of years ago. Coal, for example, comes from fossilized plants and trees. A long time ago, as plants and trees died, their remains became buried under the weight of layers of mud or new plants, and they eventually turned into stone. That stone can be cut out from deep, underground coal mines and burned for energy. Fossil fuels are used primarily for transportation: airplanes, cars, trains, and so on, and for heating and cooling houses and other kinds of buildings. Fossil fuels provide a large percentage of the energy consumed around the world. But they are non-renewable resources, meaning that there is a limited amount of each of these types of fuel. And when they are gone, no more can be produced. Because there is a limited supply of fossil fuels, scientists are continuously exploring other sources of energy that have an unlimited supply. These renewable energy sources are cleaner and have much less of an impact on the environment than non-renewable sources like fossil fuels. Such sources include the sun, solar power, water, hydropower, and wind. The heat of the sun can be captured with solar panels and used to heat homes and offices. It can also generate electricity, which can then be used for a variety of purposes. Flowing water can also produce energy. Usually hydropower plants use a dam on a river to collect water in a reservoir, or large pool. When that water is released to flow downward, it passes through a device called a turbine, which has blades like a giant fan. The force of the water spins the turbine, which then activates a generator, which produces electricity. Turbines are also used to convert the power of wind into electricity. These turbines, with blades like a propeller, are mounted on a tall tower. The wind spins the blades, and, as with hydropower, the spinning of the turbine causes a generator to produce electrical power. Another renewable energy source is called geothermal energy, which uses the heat from just below Earth's surface. This heat can be converted into electricity or used to directly provide heat for buildings. There are many advantages to renewable energy sources, but scientists have yet to solve problems associated with producing these kinds of energy inexpensively and transporting that energy to distant areas. Another important energy source is nuclear energy. Nuclear energy comes from either splitting the nucleus of an atom, called nuclear fission, or combining atomic nuclei, called nuclear fusion. The nuclear energy produced today comes from fission. The process of splitting atoms produces a massive amount of energy that can be used in many different ways. But nuclear fission has some serious disadvantages. The process creates large quantities of hot water that must be cooled. Using expensive machines, before being dumped into lakes or rivers. If water is dumped while still hot, it can cause something called thermal pollution. The hot wastewater raises the temperature of a body of water, disrupting the balance of life in that water and even killing some fish and other creatures. Nuclear fission also produces radioactive waste, which is dangerous to the environment and must be stored safely for long periods of time. The threat of an accident involving a leak of radioactive material is always present at a nuclear power plant.
Where do things go when they're flushed down the toilet?
When there were far fewer people in the world, things like used water and waste were transported. from homes and businesses by sewer pipes to large bodies of water, where they were released. Sewage disposal then consisted of allowing waste to mix with the fresh water or salt water, which would dilute it. Now, with so much waste in our highly industrialized and overpopulated world, sewage must go through treatment processes in order to keep the waters of the world safe. The decomposition, or breaking down, of waste, by bacteria, uses up a great deal of oxygen. And if decomposition of sewage were to occur in a river or lake, the animals and plants that live there wouldn't have enough of the gases oxygen and carbon dioxide they need to live. Certain waste products, like human and animal feces, also carry harmful bacteria that can cause infectious diseases when they are concentrated in large amounts and people have contact with them. So when you flush your toilet, or let dirty water run down your drain, the waste is on its way to a sewage treatment plant to protect you and the environment. It travels down pipes in your home to larger sewer pipes that run underground, some so large that waste flows through them like a river. Sometimes collected groundwater and rainwater empty into sewers, too. Along the way to the treatment plant, waste from other homes and businesses in your community join the flow. In some communities, where homes and businesses are or once were located far from one another and a sewer system is impractical, waste is often emptied into large septic tanks that are buried near each property underground. Much of the waste in a septic tank is decomposed by bacteria. But every so often, these tanks must be emptied and cleaned. When waste arrives at a sewage treatment plant, it is filtered through a large metal grill. This grill traps large objects that can't be processed. Small stones and sand are also filtered out. Once cleaned and dried, these materials can be used for building work and road repair. Now a smelly, soupy mixture, the sewage that's gone through the grill is put into an enormous tank where solid particles eventually fall to the bottom. This muddy sludge goes into a special processing tank where bacteria feed on it and break it down into harmless material. During this decomposition, a gas called methane is produced. It is burned to boil water and produce steam, which provides the power that runs the pumps in the sewage treatment plant. Treated sludge, which is nutrient-rich, can be used as manure. Once separated from sludge in the settling tank, waste liquid is pumped to filter beds, where it is cleaned. This cleaning is done by allowing the liquid to drip through layers of stones that are covered by bacteria, which eat any waste that remains. Clean water results and is pumped back into rivers, lakes, or the sea.
How do erasers remove writing?
When you write with a pencil, you are rubbing its lead across a surface, usually paper, leaving marks. The marks are really tiny bits of the pencil lead, or graphite, that have stuck to the paper. The surface of an eraser, which is made of rubber or a similar material, is both soft and sticky. When it is dragged across pencil marks, the lead sticks to it. Conveniently, during rubbing, an eraser's surface breaks off in bits. 2. Which gets rid of the areas where the pencil marks have stuck. The eraser surface remains clean and ready for more work, while the shreds of it that are black with lead can be brushed away. Only special erasers can remove ink, which sinks into paper instead of sticking to its surface. These erasers are made with sand in them to make them more abrasive. Because they need to rub away some of the paper in order to remove the ink marks. Erasing crayon marks doesn't work very well because the wax from which crayons are made stick well to paper but not to erasers. Usually trying to erase crayon leaves a smeary mess.
Where do rivers come from?
Some rivers start as underground streams, making their way to Earth's surface from layers of rock beneath the ground. Others get their water supply from melting glaciers, ice masses located on land. But most get their start from rain or snow that falls in high, steep country. That water then runs down in little streams that join together, making bigger streams and eventually rivers. And some rivers may join together to form even greater rivers. Over time, the flowing water of a river cuts a path into the rock over which it passes, creating a valley. Most rivers flow downhill, making their way from their high country source to lower, flatter land, where they broaden, curve, and move more slowly. Eventually rivers join the ocean. There, at the place where a river enters the ocean called the mouth of the river, it may deposit much of the sediment or dirt that it has been carrying, creating an area of rich land and many water channels known as a delta. Rivers have played an important role in human history. They allowed people to settle inland, away from the oceans and other large bodies of water. Before people built roads, they used rivers to travel from one place to another. Towns, cities, and even great civilizations grew up around rivers, which provided the water necessary for raising livestock, farming, and other advanced human activities.
How can snakes swallow animals larger than their own bodies?
Snakes do not always eat animals whose bodies are wider than their own, but they are certainly capable of it. And because they swallow their prey whole without bothering to chew it up first, they need to be equipped with special characteristics for getting food to their stomachs. First of all, snakes have unique jaws. The lower jawbone is only loosely connected to the upper jaw, and the lower jaw is made up of two bones that are connected by an elastic, or stretchy, tissue. So the snake can open its mouth very wide, several times as big as its own head, accommodating a relatively large animal. Also, the two sides of a snake's jaw move separately from one another. The snake sinks its fangs, which are curved backward, into its prey. It moves first one side of the jaw backward and then the next, gradually pulling the prey into its mouth. It can take a snake 30 minutes to an hour to swallow an animal. During that time, its trachea, or windpipe, gets pushed forward, out of its mouth. So the snake can continue to breathe during the long swallowing process. The snake's flexible ribs then expand to allow the body to widen as the food makes its way to the stomach and intestines. Given that eating is such a time-consuming and body-expanding process, it is perhaps fortunate that a snake doesn't need to eat very often. Snakes may eat once a week or once a month. And some large snakes in captivity have been known to go several months between meals. During colder seasons, snakes are dormant or inactive and can go much longer than usual without eating.
Why are barns usually painted red?
Paint coats wood, protecting it from sunlight and rain damage and making it last longer. When early farmers had enough money to paint their barns, they usually used inexpensive paint because the structures were so large. Ferrous oxide, a chemical powder that gives paint its red color, was readily available and cost little. Thrifty farmers in New England, New York, and the upper Midwest region painted their barns red. In those places, red barns remain a tradition. But there are plenty of barns in other parts of the country that are not red. Early farmers that were poor, especially in regions like Appalachia and the South, left their barns unpainted because they did not have the money to do the job. Unpainted wood usually weathers to a soft gray color. And in places like Pennsylvania, Maryland, and some southern Midwestern states, the most frequently seen barn color is white. Some people think that white barns grew popular when dairy farming became more important after the Civil War. White suggests cleanliness and purity, desirable qualities to be associated with milk production. Special farms where fancy horses or prize livestock were raised sometimes had barns painted unusual colors, like yellow, green, or black.